So I forget that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, I went ahead and turned off this one thing. So now we're good to go. So yes, Blanca, everything is good. So again, how are you doing this fine evening? And it's always a pleasure to have you here. So yeah.
That's good. Well, you were updating us on the workshop and the fact that you had Robert there went well, and that's good to mention because I think in your workshop in Florida, you also plan to have him there too. I think is that
Yes,
correct?
he is going to
Good.
come to Orlando, and some of the other board meeting members will be there as well. And then 2 weeks after that, he's going to go ahead and also be in Seattle. So of the
Awesome.
four workshops that I have remaining, Robert will be with us in Orlando, Seattle, and in Dallas Fort Worth. Now, I had mentioned on the newsletter that I've added Salt Lake City to the list. There were people that were setting me up there to have what is called a sponsored workshop. And that usually means they set up the location and all I have to do is go and show up, and I don't have usually have the heavy overhead expenses. Well, the location there kind of fell apart. But what happened is I'm still going to go because I had made a commitment and the people were planning on it. So Robert's not coming to Salt Lake City. Now, that's a last minute addition. And that's what happens when I have what is called sponsored or hosted workshops. So, yeah, the four more that we have is that, a week from Saturday, we're in Orlando on let's see, I think that is what, the 27th. And then on November 17th, we're in Seattle. November 24th, we're in Salt Lake City. And then on December 1st, we're in Dallas Fort Worth. And that's it for the rest of the year. And yeah. And then I
You're
posted
going to
in
be
the
busy.
newsletter and also on the website the ones I will be scheduling for after the first of the year. I usually don't schedule exact locations until about 3 to 4 months in advance, and then at
Mhm.
the most, because I need to keep some things a little bit flexible. But I'm saying these are the cities that I'm going to be visiting next, and then I usually at least somewhere between 2 to 4 months in advance, I'll go ahead and post those dates, what those dates will be of when I will be
Right.
there. And I think I have on the list, I have Baltimore, Atlanta, Santa Ana, California, St. Louis, Missouri. I want to go to Puerto Rico. I'm still working with some of the folks there to find out, what the real conditions are there. I've been promising the folks that I would come there, but we needed to give them some more time still to totally recover from, the hurricane
Yes.
issue they had there. But I need to be back in touch with them. So I'll probably be in Puerto Rico in probably late January, February, because that's one of the earlier ones I want to schedule because of the promises I'd made to those folks. And that's a nice time to go there. It's a great time from the folks in the north if you want to get away to some nice warm weather climate, because it's a wonderful place there year round. The climate is in Puerto Rico. And it's one of
Right.
those places, remember, you don't have to use a U.S. passport because it's a U.S. territory. You don't have to take your passport with you, even though you're going outside of the continental United States or the 50 states. But you don't have to use a passport to go to Puerto Rico. So, yeah. So, but that's pretty
Very
much what I
good.
have. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us tonight?
Well, again, I just wanted to make sure that people who are listening realize that you're going to have Robert there, and that they'll have access for Q&A. And I usually, and you do too, usually encourage people to learn about cryptos. Now, whether you're going to invest in them or not, whether you favor their implementation or not, the truth is they're going to be part of our future. So it's always good to have a chance to educate yourself about it. And you had Robert on your show a couple of weeks ago. He's very knowledgeable and very accessible. He'll give you great answers to your questions. And so I just wanted for people as they factor in, whether they want to attend or not, that they'll see that there's an opportunity there. Plus, they may have an opportunity, if they like, to actually get in on a very promising crypto offering. So that's all I wanted to emphasize as people are thinking, whether they want to go to the workshop or not.
Well, and I'm going to be adding some of that, talking about some of that tonight as well.
Great.
What's positive about Robert, the guy's a financial wizard. And yet he has a very, very strong heart. He's very well what I call a very deep, spiritually connected man as well, and has great ethics, great morals in what he does. And I love how he has set up this whole Meta One system. They basically have said that the interest has now picked up to the point where they are no longer allowing what are called big businesses or corporations to buy the coin. Because this is a coin, he says, we want to make this for the people. We want to make this as a coin that's available to everyday folks like you and me, and it's not something that's going to end up being dominated by the extremely wealthy or the Wall Street industry, or even the very wealthy people. So I'll get into that later. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. So yeah, okay, but yeah, so.
That's good. That's all I wanted to emphasize. And the only other thing is, I don't know if other people have noticed, but October has been a very, very interesting month. I grew up in the north, but my adolescence was in Texas. And one of the things that was very popular in the rodeos was the bull riding. Have you ever seen those poor people ride those bulls, just kicking and jumping and stopping and twisting? Have you ever had a chance to see that, Dave?
I grew up around a rodeo, so yeah.
That's what October has felt like to me, and not so much in a negative sense. Actually, it's kind of exciting to the day will twist and turn in different ways. The day ends up different than how it started, and so I just wanted to acknowledge, if you have had days like those, or if October feels like that to you, no, it's not just you. We feel it too, and so I just encourage folks to just take some time to do the things that are kind to yourself. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to sit outside in nature, soak in a bath of Epsom salts. So I'm just encouraging people to take extra time to take care of themselves, if indeed they're feeling October to be a really wonderful bull ride, as it is for us.
That's a great description. October's been kind of a bull ride. It has been. It's been just one of those different crazy months, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the intensity of things seems to be building.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, we got 3 more weeks to those midterm elections too. Who knows what's going to happen with that? So
yes.
It's interesting. So we always kind of thought that maybe some of the stuff was going to break before then, but there might be a strategy that they're going to wait till after the election to kind of let all this crazy stuff break loose. So yeah.
Is it crazy enough? Let's put it that way, but we'll see. Let's all just hang in there and ride the bull and have fun.
Yeah. Well, Blanca, they say you're echoing on Facebook, but I am fine. So, folks, here's what has been my experience. When it does that, the echoing, when it records okay. But I don't know what's creating the echo problem on that. Is my gain too strong? I don't know. Let's try turning my gain down a little bit, and then Blanca, go ahead and talk a little bit more now and see if I turn the gain down a little bit. If that kind of takes away some of the echo problem there.
Yes. So, you adjusted it for Facebook because you said there's a delay. So hopefully that would take care of it. And
it'd be about 5 to 7 seconds before they can comment on it if there's anything
that's
new there. But folks, let me know if Blanca's still echoing there. Okay. So yeah.
Hopefully that has been cleared, because I know it could be a little bit aggravating to hear the echo. And well, too bad. Hopefully they heard the bull riding story.
Well, they can hear it. It's just that it echoes. Okay,
Hello?
Let's see here. Hello? Okay, so it still says that they're still saying that you're echoing. I don't.
Okay.
I guess I keep saying this, but I guess somewhere along the way that I need to try to find a program where I only have one program where I can do everything live and people can call in. See, that's why I like doing the live recording, so I'm using the Facebook for that. And then also I have to use my my camera program here, and then I do the Blog Talk Radio because it gives the people the opportunity to call in. But what I need to do is find some other service, folks. If you know now, but it has to be a service that's really serviceable. I know you've recommended Zoom, but folks, that means everybody has to log into Zoom, and they have to set up an account for Zoom. And also, Zoom limits how many people you can have. But when you start getting up to 100 people, it gets really expensive to use Zoom. So Zoom is out of the question. That's not possible. The other thing is I know you see if there's something where YouTube live streaming, if they call in on that, or and the other thing is possibly Skype. If they can call in on Skype. But I want to be able to have something, where they can be able to. We can have a live video feed and also can call in on just one service. And I'm willing to make that shift if necessary because I can move away then from Blog Talk Radio. I pay $100 a month for Blog Talk, and that's just for what we do here on these programs. So, yeah. Okay, well, we'll just continue on then, okay? Because I'm going to be doing most of the talking for a while anyway tonight.
Sure, so. I think you should go ahead. Yes.
Are we ready to go?
Ready to go.
Let's go. Let's move on into the program tonight. So, again, thank you to everybody that attended the workshops that in Oakland over the weekend, and I put out the new schedule that is there. And now here, I want to do this. The first thing I want to do talk about tonight, I do have a little bit of an update information on the currency exchanges. I've been saying recently, folks, things dramatically changed about 3 months ago because the intensity of basically the opposition, the attack, the attempt to shut us down had just dramatically increased. And so myself and others, we had to basically really go quiet. We had to be very careful about what we say. Because what happens is, if I come on a program, and my primary part of my program is talking about, the currency exchanges, talking about the funding sources and stuff like that, it raises the flags of all the people that are in opposition to this. So they see the flags, I come up on their radar screens, they start talking about it, and they jump into activity. And then the next thing you know, some of the other people are hearing about it, and some of my sources are hearing about it. So it's best for us just to stay quiet. I can periodically give some updates. Now, I have a friend who has some very, very good sources. This is a man who has a personal friend who has been personal friends with President Trump for over 20 years. So he has the ability to basically, he has Trump's personal cell phone number. And he has the ability to call him, and he does periodically. He gets updates of what's going on. He gets updates from the staff inside Trump's office of what's taking place. And they are saying, yes, everything is moving forward. But we have to remember this whole issue of the release of these funds, it's an international event, and it's really driven by the political events that are taking place so that it's going to be safe for us. Because basically those in opposition, those that we call the cabal, they really have the ability to create huge, massive problems inside the existing banking system. They control the existing banking system, and they are the ones that have the ability to create a lot of problems for us. It would be one thing for the funds to be released to a paymaster, but they could basically shut down our ability to move funds out to the people. So it's an ongoing process to make sure that that is safe. For the last 6 to 8 months, it's all been about safety and regulation, about what it's been. It's all been about safety and security for us, and that's something they're still having to work through. Most of that stuff is done. Now, this friend, he also has a second friend that is involved in some of the currencies. He has turned some currencies into some brokers, and he has also direct contact with President Trump. And he has he has contacts with a number of members in Congress as well. And this gentleman also is going to be meeting with President Trump in about 2 weeks. And my friend may be able to go in there and meet with him in that meeting as well. So we're getting from those inside sources that things are progressing, things are moving along. Now, what I have said is the money comes from one predominant source. And that's these dragon families, because who has hundreds of trillions of dollars to be able to move and spread out? They're the only ones that have that kind of money. And for those of you that may be new to this program, folks, remember, I've made 4 trips to Hong Kong. I've met with the dragon families personally. I was supposed to go inside the bunkers and be shown where all this gold was. Not all of it, but a very large part of it was. And there was another item that had occurred that basically shut that whole process down. I am looking forward to another opportunity to do that in the future, but it's not something that's urgent right now. My going to Hong Kong and going in there seeing the gold isn't going to do anything to make this happen any faster. So whether it's Hong Kong or any other place that they have it. So the word is that we're getting, and I said now the money comes down from that primary source. And then for me, It then funnels out to comes down through two primary, very large funnels. One of these funnels is basically an internationally cooperated agreement where there's about 180 countries that have signed on to contracts for these funds to be released. And there are three primary offices, one in the United States, one in Europe, and one in Asia. Now, obviously, the Asia office is the last one, but what I have been told consistently is that all of the currencies that have been turned in, regardless of who or where they have gone through, they all end up going through this one primary office in the United States, and then from there it moves on to Hong Kong, is where it goes. The other source is also, it's a strong source. They're connected to the families, but they've been running into some very serious legal problems by outside sources, and they have created a delay with that. Now, the coordinated structure of the government contracts, yes, some of the money comes down through the families, and other parts of it they have generated through these off-market trading platforms for almost 25 years. Now, that is the one that I get regular updates from. And they have said in that system, they have what are called 3 stages of development. Stage 1 is done. Stage 2 should be starting any day, and that takes about 10 days to complete. And then when that is done, they will enter into Stage 3. And Stage 3 is the organizing office and the paymasters receive their official letters of it's time to release the funds. And here's what happened in the last update that has never ever happened before. And this is what gives me a lot of confidence. These are good people. These are credible people. These are people that are involved in the banking industry. These are people that are working directly with what I call the white hats within U.S. Treasury. Because this is an international coordinated effort, they had said that the official release letter is coming from the white hats within the IMF. So that tells you that there is cooperation and agreement that is going on in this process on an international banking scale. So at the top, at that level, things are safe. Where it's not safe is at our level, the retail level. So that's what's happening. That's going on in the whole currency exchange process. And you're always asking me dates. And folks, right now, because things got so tight and the attacks were so strong, other than that information that I just gave you, the people at the very, very top, they're not talking because they know as soon as they start talking, the information begins to leak out, and then it creates some of the delays. So they're basically saying unless you are in a need to know, and I don't know anybody who is in a need to know situation. Those are only the people at the very, very top. They're the only ones that have any type of a sense of what the timing is going to be. But from what I do have from the processing office, that funnel, it could be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even up to another 6, 8, 10 months, even a year. We just don't know. So I'm not trying to speculate on anything. I don't want to build up any false hopes. And as I've been saying for a long time, don't quit your day job, folks, because we just don't know when this is going to happen. I've said this before, that it's important to understand that the Dragon families have been working on this for 75 years. They're in no hurry. They're going to make sure it's done right and it's done safely for the purpose of what they want these funds to be released. So for us, griping and complaining about 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, this has been going on for 4 and 5 years. Yeah, and it could go on for another 4 or 5 years. All I know is that I've met with the real people, and the money is very real, and they have a plan. When that's going to happen, I don't know. And I don't know anybody who does know any real hard, firm dates. So that's it. That's the updates there basically on the currency exchange process. So Blanca, I'll let you go ahead and come on in there, and then I just would like you to share your thoughts on that as well as I go through each one of these different sections here, okay?
Okay.
So share with us some of your thoughts on that.
Well, again, thanks for bringing this. I know I'm just like everybody else. It'd be so great to hear you say, "Hey, next Tuesday at 8 p.m. the money's going to be in your account." That's what everybody wants to hear, but that's not what's the reality here. So you're just bringing us the latest that you have, and you always have done that, and you don't sugarcoat it. So I appreciate that. I think I did lose a little bit of track as you were telling us that one source is the dragon family, and that's something you've been telling us consistently. You also mentioned that it's an international agreement. Nice update on the offices. Okay, so that's kind of new data in terms of the way you've talked about it. You mentioned something about one source having legal issues, and then you talked about off-market trading platforms. So I wasn't real sure following you there. If that was three groups, one group.
It's one group, and then it funnels down into two separate funnels, is the way that I've been using the term.
Okay.
It comes down from the dragon family and splits out into two separate funnels, and then it goes out from there. One of those funnels is that group that is a part of, the international contract agreement, with the countries. And the other funnel is what is coming down through some of the independent sources. These are independent sources that are connected to the families. These are some of your big brokers. It's some of your stuff that's out of Reno. Reno money has gone through both of those funnels, when it comes from the bottom going back up to where it goes. But those are what I call the two primary funnels, and they aren't connected to each other, even though they are connected at the top. They don't interact with each other, and they're not connected to each other in this process. And I have contracts in both of those funnels, is the best way to say that. And the people that have already turned in currencies to me are in both of those funnels. The independent one was the one that ran into some legal problems, so it's been put on hold. They are working through that process. I'm not at liberty to talk about it any more than that, other than the fact that they had run into some legal problems. The international contract funnel, everything is fine. Everything's moving fine on that one.
All right.
So we could end up having money coming through the international contract funnel, and all that money gets paid out, and the other one may still be on hold. I have no idea how long that one is going to take. We just don't know. So.
Okay, that really clarified it.
Yes,
thank you.
Clarified it. Yeah. Yes, thank you. And I don't have a timing on either one of them, so folks, don't go emailing me and saying, well, which funnel am I in and what's going to happen and what timing? I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I don't have the answers to that question. So, yeah.
And the interesting thing...
But I do know...
Go ahead.
The interesting thing... Go ahead. Yeah, as I said, I have contracts that are in both of those funnels.
Right. And so you'll know what's going on in both of those. Well, here's a nice test for us that if people immediately say, well, it could take another year and I'm tired of waiting, etc., or if people say, hey, this thing can turn around pretty quick in a month or two, wouldn't that be grand? So I would just invite people, because I'm doing it with my own psychology and my own heart, is what do I tell myself about this experience? It's one of the things that I've been noticing lately too, and it's one of the things writing the bull, is that the way I perceive news, reality, what others say to me, what I witness, the way I perceive it and where I sit in my heart really colors the reality in very interesting ways. And I have actually seen reality shift in a very interesting way, depending on the energy and heart consciousness, another topic you've talked about, that I greet the reality. So as you were giving this update, I was really watching how was I receiving the news and what was I energizing. And I immediately say, well, let me energize that this could turn around in a month or two.
It could. It could.
Yeah. We don't know.
We've been told that before. I just don't want to presume it, but I just know my sources have been pretty good about saying that it can very easily happen next month.
So right, and so that's what I'm saying. It's almost like, because you're being very honest. You're just saying, hey, I'm not, I don't have a timetable, and I don't know who does. But what is it that we are registering when we hear that? Are we registering? Oh, it's going to take another year. That means we're experiencing this on a certain level, or do we hear, well, this thing could actually happen in a couple of months? And so whichever one we receive, some will say, well, that's not realistic. Well, who's to say?
Well, basically, here's a good way to sum it up. The International Contract Group, that funnel, in essence, they have said if everything goes as planned and they do not have any interruptions, the money could very easily be available next month. That is a time schedule that they have set. But, they always seem to get interruptions where the opposition seems to come in and create some problems. But they've been really working on that diligently, but they says we have a plan, and if it goes as planned and it is not interrupted, then those funds will probably start moving next month.
Well, see, so let's get on that bull. Let's ride that bull.
Yeah. That's something you can focus on, folks. Because that's solid information. That's something you can focus on. That's something you can put your energy in. That's something that you can put your meditation into. That's something you can put your prayers into.
Right.
That's something that you can begin to visualize. Because that is the one that says that the letter will be coming from the IMF, which is solid, concrete information. I'd never had anything like that solid before, because these people, they get my information, they would not be saying that on a basis of speculation. They don't speculate about what they talk about. If they don't have solid information coming down from their sources at the very top, they just don't say it. And to have them come out and make that statement was a very, very strong statement. So.
I really encourage folks, for fun and for your own kind of experience, to try what Dave said and really energize that outcome and visualize that happening in your heart. Remember all the people you would like to help and how you're going to help friends and family in your project. That's the kind of energy that I think is going to help this. And I'm just saying it from an experimental basis, because Al and I have experimented with this a couple of times. We've been involved in, let's put this, I'll be generic about it, somewhat of a legal issue, and it was looking pretty dire for us there. But we both said, you know what, it's not over until the judge makes the decision. It's not over, even though everybody around us had already made their decision what was going to happen. Well, it turned out the judge decided in our favor, and people could not believe it. But see, because we kept on saying, well, it's not over until it's over, and the judge can just decide to go the other way, too. So I'm just inviting people, and I know you did too, to try it. Okay? Try it. There's so much lined up for this to happen. All the things that Dave said, so why not energize that? That's all I have to say about that one.
Yeah. Let me add one more thing, too, about the letter, the authorization letter of the release of funds that's coming from the IMF. I forgot to put this part in there as well. So not only are they releasing an authorization letter, they are also releasing an instruction manual on how to disperse the funds. They were that explicit in the information. They said you will receive a letter saying you're authorized to start releasing it, and these are the instructions on how to release it. So that's interesting, because I've never had that type of a concrete of information on that before anyway, because in the back of your mind you're always saying, how are they going to do this? What are the logistics? What are the step-by-step process they're going to use to get this money out to people? Well, IMF's going to give an instruction manual how to do that. So,
yeah. That's pretty cool right there. That means this thing's real.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, that's what I mentioned is what is called the solidness of the information that is there. So, yeah. Okay. All right.
Got my question.
All right. So that's that topic. Now, I wanted to again do an update about of understanding the cryptocurrency process. I've been talking about that this process is not waves. It was about a year ago, even Christine Lagarde, chair of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, of her was she was addressing basically a group of bankers, and she told the bankers, you guys need to get on board. This is not going to go away. This is a people empowerment process. These are the people that are rising up and becoming involved in this process. One of the concerns that some people have had is, well, what happens if the governments try to shut down the crypto process or try to control it? Folks, it isn't going to happen. Now, there may be some governments that will try to set up some rules and regulations in it, but the bottom line is, because cryptocurrency is an internet event and the internet cannot be controlled by any single country, then it means that it's open, it's wide open. Let me give an illustration. Let's say, the United States wants to come in and shut down the cryptocurrency process, and they're going to limit how much I can purchase and what I can buy and stuff like that. Well, I live in Arizona. All I have to do is drive about 3 hours south and open up a bank account in Mexico that I can access online, and I come back home to Sedona, and I now have a bank account in Mexico. I also have a bank account in Hong Kong, and I can do all my cryptos through those, because those governments aren't going to control it and regulate it. You see, so if a government tries to shut down the process, all they do is hurt themselves, because they drive all of that money outside of their country instead of leaving it within the country, operating within the country. The cryptocurrency process is also a very strong, what is called a peer-to-peer process. When you and I make a financial transaction, let's say I use this as the illustration when people come to workshops. I says, when people come to my workshops, they're going to pay basically, what is called, the fee for a thing. And if they write a check, the check goes through a bank. If they use a debit or credit card, it goes through a bank. If they're paying me cash, the cash comes through the bank. In every single financial transaction that you and I make in the current existing system, the bank is always involved in the middle of the transaction. I don't have the money to give, I don't have the ability to give money to you or you to me without that money going through a bank system. Cryptocurrency is different. Cryptocurrency is peer-to-peer. The day is going to come in the future that if you attend my workshops, you can pay me in a cryptocurrency. That's a direct transaction from you to me, or vice versa. And so what happens in the cryptocurrency process, we are taking our funds out of the central banking system. And then what we are doing, that is one of the processes of neutering them. Because see, where banks have their power is when we put our money in their banks, they then get to loan that money on a 10-to-1 ratio. If you put $100 in the bank, they have the right to loan $1,000. And it's off of that money, loaning that money, that they make their money, and then they control that ebb and flow of the money supply. So then what it means, it's back to the extremely powerful and the extremely wealthy. They always benefit the most from these financial transactions processes of running the central banking system. The cryptocurrency system basically takes that apart. It takes the money out of their hands and puts it totally into our hands as a collective. We used to live in a system prior to the internet where information was controlled by basically the powerful elite systems. They controlled what information came our way, and that information came from three primary sources. They controlled the media industry, they controlled the entertainment industry, and yes, they even controlled the education system or industry, because those were the three primary systems that we would receive information and we would learn stuff. And when the internet came around, they lost all that control, because now you and I had the ability to communicate directly with each other outside of their controlling sphere of what called, quote, correct information. And we can even see how they're even trying to still control it today, because they're controlling what's happening on Facebook and Google and Twitter and places like that. So they're attempting to, but the bottom line reality is we always have an option to go somewhere else. We are learning the truth from ourselves through peer-to-peer communication. So what the internet did to the information system, cryptocurrency is doing to the banking system. It's basically taking away their power and control. And that's why I've always encouraged you to be involved in the cryptocurrency system. Now, yes, it's still kind of crazy. Yes, it's still in the Wild West stage. And yes, it can sometimes be all over the place. But it's important to know, even though you have the big three, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin in the coins, they're still controlled by a very small number of people. What I've been told, there's about 8 to 10 people that basically control Bitcoin. So you can put money into Bitcoin, but its ebbs and flows and ups and downs is really controlled by a very small minority. And there are about 1,700 coins that are out there. And what I've been told is that you can basically count on one hand those are asset-backed. An asset-backed coin will never drop below the value of the asset that backs up the coin. So, as I said, it's kind of in its Wild West stage. What's happening right now with the cryptocurrency industry was very similar to what happened to the dot-com industry in the late 1990s. The internet came out, the dot-com industry came out, and all these dot-com companies were exploding. Their stocks were exploding on Wall Street. And then it didn't take very long, once we hit around the end of 1999, is that the vast majority of them all started falling apart. The strong ones survived, and the masses went away. And we see the strong ones today. The Microsoft, the Googles, the Amazons, the Facebooks, the ones like that. Those were the very strong companies that became and they survived and became very strong. We're anticipating the same thing is going to happen in the cryptocurrency industry. Because see, at the end of the day, if you've got 1,700 coins, for any one of those coins to do well, it's based on whoever's backing it or the company that's behind it, their ability to basically market their coin against all the others that are out there. And what will happen is they don't have the ability to mass market their coins. They don't have the ability to put out a marketing message that's going to attract new people and new money into their coins. And so what will happen is their coin will go flat, or their coin will basically fall away. It will drop out. And that's what's going to happen to a lot of these, what I call the subsidiary or weaker coins. Now, your strong ones, yes, they can still survive, but they also, they don't have anything to back them up. They're kind of like fiat currency. Last week, when we had the one day that the stock market dropped about the Dow Industrial Average dropped about 800 points in one day. If you noticed, the cryptocurrencies also, the big three, they also dropped. Right when the markets opened up, they dropped it somewhere between 7 and 11% as well in just an hour. So it showed you they reflected what was happening in the stock market. Now that's unusual. Because usually what happens when a stock market starts dropping, the cryptocurrencies should go up. It shows you how they were controlled. They controlled it as well. When that drop happened, the big sellers, the big controllers of the big cryptocurrencies, they dropped it as well. So it's possible to see that you could end up seeing that those could have dramatic drops, because if you aren't in them already, you're not necessarily in a place where you're going to end up making some very good money. People who bought Bitcoin in January and February, they've already seen 50 and 60% losses on their coins. People who bought it, would say a year and a half to 2 years ago, they've seen 100 to 200% increases. Well, it was because Bitcoin had that 3 to 4 month period where it just spiked, and then it's dropped all the way down to where it is now in the $6,000 range. The cryptocurrency industry, you can put money in the cryptocurrency industry without putting it in a coin and thinking it in terms of an investment. You can basically put it into what is called a US dollar wallet. Now, in the cryptocurrency industry, a wallet is basically equivalent to what we call a bank account. They're the same things. It's a financial account. It's something you put your finances into. And a wallet in the cryptocurrency industry is another term that's similar to a bank account in the banking industry. Then people also ask, well, do I get physical coins? No, the coin is a term, a nomenclature that is used And a coin would be, in the cryptocurrency industry, would be similar to a dollar in the banking industry. So it's an item of what is called financial exchange. In the banking industry, we exchange dollars. In the crypto industry, we exchange coins. In the banking industry, we have a bank account. In the cryptocurrency industry, we call them wallets. So that's what the terms that are there, so you can have a basic foundation and understanding. And you can take your US dollars and move them into a US dollar wallet, which means it just sits there. And if you have what is called discretionary funds, funds that you're not using, or they're sitting in a bank account and only getting a 2% increase, folks, I would encourage you to move them into the cryptocurrency industry. Now, everybody has to make these decisions for themselves. You're the one who's in charge. You're responsible for yourself. I'm making these as suggestions. At the end of the day, you need to do what's right for you. Some of you end up sending me emails and you ask for my advice. It's important that you know I am not a financial advisor. I'm not here to give hard, specific advice about what to do and where to go. I'm offering suggestions, and then you do your own research about what you are comfortable with and what feels good to you. So that's the issue about the cryptocurrency industry and why it's so important to get into that. So Blanca, why don't you come back on and join us again and just share with us your comments about what I've said about the cryptocurrency industry.
Well, I think the Wild Wild West comment, people need to remember that, and not as a spook or to scare people, but to encourage people to proceed with caution and learn. That's what I enjoy about, for example, Robert joining you in the workshop or in your shows, because he is knowledgeable, he knows the traditional financial system, and he knows crypto, so he's a good resource to learn from, probably in your audience, because they like to listen to alternative forms of information. They're probably doing their research as well. So I would encourage it. Also, as you mentioned, it's a volatile investment. So if people are very comfortable in the quote-unquote safe stock market, which I'm not sure it's that safe, frankly, the cryptos act very differently in terms of their movement. I remember, and we got into cryptos not because we wanted to, it's because we were going to work with someone who the only way you could work with him was through crypto. So it took us a while to learn about it. But we actually got into Bitcoin when it was like, I think, $300. And so we didn't have a lot to invest in it, so we just invested enough to do business with this person. But because it appreciated so much, that was really nice. But then we've also seen it depreciate very much as well. So we know, and Bitcoin is supposed to be, one of the oldest, most established coins, and it's acting pretty wild. So that's the main thing I would say to folks. And anytime you're going to spend your money in crypto, I would say be really sure you know why you're doing it, and that you understand what the offering is, and why it has value. And I think from the presentation that Robert did, there's a lot about the coin he's talking about. I won't go into that because you probably have some information to share about that. But in general, I
Yes, I
do
do.
on the cryptos. Be very informed about what you're doing. I too encourage folks to invest in it, mostly because it is an alternative. You see, we can sit around and complain about the Fed and complain about the Babylonian debt system and all, but if we start putting some of our money in cryptos, we're actually doing something to kind of dismantle that matrix. So I favor that as well.
Yes, that's great. Okay, anything else you want to share on that? Or
I think that's it on the cryptos, yes.
okay, all right. So the next thing is that I am going to go in and talk about Meta One Coin. Now, why am I bringing this one forward? Well, folks, I've been watching the crypto industry for probably a year and a half to 2 years now. And in the back of my mind, I've been looking for what would be an absolutely solid coin that would be asset backed. When you look at the cryptocurrency industry and being able to move money through this process, there are three parts to it. There's the coin itself, and then it's based on the company's ability to market that coin, how well it will be, how well people will choose to put money into it. Then you have the exchange. The exchange is where you can purchase the coin, and who controls that exchange. And then the third part is the banking industry's relationship with the cryptocurrency industry. Well, in the predominance of the industry that is out there right now, you have all these different coins, but at the end of the day, there's over 1,700 of them, and you can count on one hand those that are asset-backed. And I was looking for an absolutely solid asset-backed coin that wasn't that they can that the company has high ethical standards and they can control that coin. Also, they are in charge of the exchange with the coin so that it's not manipulated by the powerful people, and you don't run into problems with the banking industry wanting to do problems with it. Now let me give you some illustration. I'm going to again use Bitcoin as the example. Bitcoin can go up and down, and there's lots of people who have lost a lot of money on it because they got into it late. So there's that problem. Bitcoin, because it's fiat based, there's no asset backing it, could fall apart. That's the coin. You then have to find an exchange where you can go and purchase or sell the coin. The largest exchange out there is known as Coinbase. Well, Coinbase, the people that control Bitcoin all control Coinbase. That's how it's been explained to me. I had people tell me it took them 2 and 3 weeks to be able to open up a Coinbase account. Well, the controllers were controlling people coming in because they didn't want too many people buying at that time because they wanted to keep the coin down. So they controlled who could come in. And if you didn't know of any other exchanges that were solid, you didn't really know where to go. You would have had to done a lot of research to find other exchanges where you could have purchased Bitcoin. Then you come back to your ability to sell the coin through the exchange. You buy it and then you sell it. It's like buying and selling a stock. Well, you can have, if you go through Wall Street, it's easy to buy and sell stock because of the massive volume that is there. But if you have an off stock that is not traded or exchanged on the Wall Street exchanges, it's really hard to buy and sell your stock. Because, see, in a stock, for every buyer, there has to be a seller. And if you're not on this massive exchange, you want to sell it, but you can't find a buyer. Well, it's similar in the cryptocurrencies, is the people who control the exchanges control the ebb and flow. So when you have the same people controlling exchanges who are also controlling the coins, you see that they're dominating that part of the industry for their benefit at our expense. Then the third thing you run into is the banking industry. I have known people that were very wealthy people, and they wanted to spend $50,000 to $100,000 on purchasing a crypto coin. And when they did it, the bank shut their bank account down. The bank was saying, if you're going to start putting all that kind of money into the crypto industry, we don't even want you as a customer. I had another individual I was aware of. He wanted to basically sell $50,000 of his crypto and put that money into his bank account. And because the money was coming from a crypto coin, the bank froze his account for 3 weeks. So you see that there isn't a wide cooperation in the current existing central bank controlled banking system in being friendly to the cryptocurrency industry. Now, there are some banks that do that, but you have to go out and you have to find them. So here's what you want. You want to have a good coin that's asset backed. You want to have a good favorable exchange that is helping you, and you want to have a banking system that is favorable to the cryptos. Why am I so solidly behind Meta One? Because they have all three. They have their own coin that is asset backed, and as Robert and I had talked about on the program, they already have over $1 billion of asset in hand, and that's just the start. There's billions, scores of billions of more that will be coming in at a later time. They have their own exchange, so they control the buying and selling. And they are in the process of establishing their own bank called MetaBank. They will have their own bank. They're in the process of now getting their banking routing number. It will be a regular bank that is like any other bank, but here's what's so positive about MetaBank. They were able to purchase a grandfathered 1808 banking charter. They were able to purchase that. So now they have this 1808 charter that is grandfathered, which means they have the ability to have been in existence before the Federal Reserve came around and started controlling through a central banking industry, which means they are exempt from most of the hard industry-controlled regulations of the Federal Reserve. It means the Federal Reserve can't come in and control them. It means the Federal Reserve can't come in and shut them down. But yet they have the ability to operate as any other bank. So Meta One is going to has its own coin, has its own exchange, and now is going to have its own bank, so that when you can take money, put your US dollars into the Meta One bank, shift them over to the coin, but whether you're putting the money in the bank or you're putting the money in the coin, you're removing your money from the Federal Reserve corrupt, cabal-controlled central banking system. What Robert and I had shared with the folks at the workshop in Oakland is, folks, when you receive your money from the currency exchanges, if you don't have something that you're already very, very comfortable with, we would encourage you to put your funds into the coin or the Meta One bank. Meta One bank is going to be just like any other bank. You can write checks from it. You will be able to have a debit card with the bank. They'll be issuing their own credit cards. You will have a regular bank account. All of it will be able to be worked online. It will have very strong online banking systems, so you don't have to worry about, is there a branch in your community? Because the banking industry has moved to the point where the vast majority of all your banking can be done either through ATMs or online. It's very rare. I don't have to go into a branch bank hardly at all anymore. About the only time I go into that is when I'm traveling overseas and I'm bringing back currency from overseas, and I take it into the bank to have it put into my checking account. I did that when I recently came back from Amsterdam. Beyond that, I rarely go into a bank. I use my debit card to get ATM when I want cash. I rarely write a check anymore. I'm only writing a check about once every 5 or 6 months, because I pay almost everything through my debit cards or through online transactions. I can now, any checks that I receive, I can deposit them through my cell phone. Well, Meta One will do all of that for you as well. And that is a place where you can put the majority of your funds. Now, if you're like me, I will have the majority of my money in the Meta One system, in either the coins or in their bank, and I'll still keep basically my Bank of America account, but I only have a small amount in there, and I use that for some of my other financial transactions, my day-to-day money transacting business, and I use Bank of America for that. That is a system, and I was just like, I was looking for something like that, and lo and behold, I didn't realize that it was going to be a part of our team. It was because the people that have been with me, that have been supporting me and a part of the team in the workshops, they came into that, and it was through that I became acquainted with Robert. Robert lives here in Sedona, and Robert and his partner Nicole are very much involved in that. And it's my deep personal friends who are the administrators that are handling all the process of that is going on. So when you come to the workshop and you see the presentation made by Robert, the two people that are back there handling the table are two of my very close personal friends that have been coming to the workshops for over 4 years. So I ended up, all I can say is what I was looking for, it was another one of those divine assignments, because it found me. Exactly what I was looking for found me. I didn't have to go out and find it and become acquainted with them, because they were already my friends. Now, a little bit more again about Robert Dunlap. This man is a financial man par excellence. Some of you have asked questions about his reliability and credibility. The man is solid. You aren't going to be able to do a lot of research on the internet and find a lot of stuff about him, and nor in the social media. because he is a man that basically knows how to basically take himself off of the social media. He understands that stuff very well. He's great at understanding computer systems. He's a financial wizard that does it. And let's just say, if you think that he's not invested into this thing, what I can tell you is he has put over $50 million of his own personal money into developing this Meta One coin. The original money that started with buying and purchasing some of the art, the fine art that is the asset that backs up this coin, it came out of his pocket. Now, what is that asset? Let me talk about that. That backs up the coin, it's fine art. When I first heard that, I said, huh? Well, why art? Is because when you go back to the last 100 years of history, nothing has appreciated more than fine art. You see, what happens is the very wealthy people, when they have discretionary funds, they will take a lot of that money and put it into fine art. Why? It's solid. It's a hard asset. It has 100+ year history of appreciating in value. It doesn't go up and down very much. It continues to almost always appreciate. In fact, back in 2008, when we went through the financial crash, and when the Dow Industrial Average lost 53% over 6 months, real estate dropped dramatically. People lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. People lost their 401k accounts in the stock markets. People lost their homes to foreclosures. There were scores of millions of people that lost tons of money in that crash. During that time, art continued to appreciate. It's a very solid asset because it operates outside of the ebb and flow of the international financial system, which can be manipulated by others. And it's basically a system where the very wealthy put a lot of their money. And that's why it's so solid, and it was an ingenious plan when I saw Robert was doing this. And you can go back and listen to the interview that I had with him a couple weeks ago. It's on my Facebook page, it's on my YouTube page. That was about a 2-hour live streaming program, and it's in the second hour that he and I basically talk about, the Meta One coin system. You also have the ability to come and meet him and ask questions with him face-to-face at the workshops, again in Orlando, Seattle, and in Dallas-Fort Worth here for the rest of the year. Those of us that are on this team, there's 13 of us that are on the board for Meta One. We had a board meeting on Sunday in Oakland because almost all of us were at the workshop, and we're just seeing this becoming more and more solid. Robert already has Wall Street people wanting to put $400 and $500 million into Meta One, and guess what? The interest coming from today, folks, is so sudden. No. To allow extremely wealthy people to come in and control this coin. We made a decision at the board meeting that there will be no large businesses, corporations, LLCs that will be purchased Meta One coin. We basically are doing this to empower everyday local people like you and me. Now, that coin is not on the market yet. It's still private. They're shooting to have it on the market, have it live in public by the end of the year. And we want to emphasize now that you're not restricted to this, but for you to really take advantage of the full availability of this asset, we encourage whatever you're going to put into it to plan on letting it be there for at least 1.5 years to 2 years. This coin, Robert already has people from Wall Street beating on his door wanting to put money into it. He is now getting calls from some of the top museums around the world saying, "Would you please purchase our art?" Because of the way he has set the situation up, it is such a win-win scenario that nothing can go wrong. Now, what's important to know is that there's what's called the asset value of the coin and then market value. Now, market value can go up and come down, but asset value, as market value rises, asset value will always increase. When it's asset backed, it means the coin will never drop below the value, the hard value of the assets. The art that Meta One coin has already acquired, they have one Van Gogh. and they have 4 Picassos and some others. Folks, those are some of your absolute top names. This Van Gogh, they're saying, already has a potential to have a value because they've brought it into the Meta One system, and because of what it's doing, it's increasing its value. That one painting, they say, already potentially has a value of over $500 million, one piece of art. They have secure places to back it up. The art is insured. They've got all kinds of different contracts they're working on. I don't want to go into all those details here. Go listen to the program from a couple of weeks ago. Come to the workshops and ask your questions. Or you can go online, Meta, META1, the number 1 coin.com. You can go online to their website and then you go on the contact and send the questions into them. Now, some of you have been wanting to purchase Meta One or you've had questions, please be patient. When I had Robert on the program 2 weeks ago, in the first 10 days they had about 700 to 800 purchase requests and responses. And they only had 2 people that were working part-time. The system is not totally automated yet. They are in the process of setting up the computer system. By the time that they go public, everything will be automated. But right now, if you inquire, you're going to get a live phone call back from a live person that's going to respond to your wanting to purchase coin or your basically the questions that you have. The price of the coin right now is basically $22.22. People say, well, how did it get to that? Well, they took what was $1 billion of hard assets that they knew they had that much in, and they're going to produce 450 million coins, and they will never produce any more than that. That will always be all that there is. So they divided that, and it came out to the 22.22. That's what you can purchase it at now. But folks, professional people on Wall Street are basically telling Robert and the rest of us, that coin, when it goes live, has the potential to minimally shoot to $400 to $500 a coin within a couple of weeks to a couple of months. And it says within 6 months that coin could very easily be at between $5,000 and $10,000, more than Bitcoin. Already, right now, when Meta One coin goes live on the market, it will be in the top 5 coins of having that much money behind it. So, folks, again, what do I say is obviously it's your decision. You're the one who needs to make that decision. But I just see this is one of those things of divine guidance that found me, found us, and we're making this available for you. We've had people that are telling us that this coin has the opportunity to probably be the biggest coin on the market within 2 years. It could very easily be at $30,000 to $40,000 per coin within 2 to 3 years, based on the assets backing it up, not based on a fiat market reaction. That's how solid it is. This is one of them that when the Wild West stage gets over, it's going to be there, it's going to be solid, and it's going to be in the top 2 or 3 coins. And right now, it's the only one in the top that is asset backed, which means you can't lose money on this. I won't say can't. Stuff could happen that is beyond our control. But in a normal scenario, you are not going to lose money on Meta One coin. Let's just say this. If you're losing money because the asset value goes down, it's because the whole global economy has fallen apart. And wherever you have money, you're losing money there in the global economy falling apart. And Meta One will always fall less than everything else, because when the economy goes bad, the wealthy people start putting their money into fine art because it's solid. And folks, it's 100 years of history that backs that up. That's not something that's just, a lot of flimsy, empty talk. You've got over 100 years of solid history that shows when the economy starts falling apart, people start shifting their money into hard assets. Gold, silver, fine art is where they put it. Gold can really wildly fluctuate as well. Fine art doesn't. It's solid. It has a solid history that is beyond anything else. You and I, as everyday people, we just don't hear that much about it because it takes a lot of money to buy a piece of fine art that's worth a lot of money. So it's the extremely wealthy that put their money into it. And what's happening now is that everyday people like you and me have the opportunity to participate with the very wealthy in investing into the fine art. So that's pretty much what I have to say on Meta One Coin. And Blanca, why don't you come back in and join us and share with us your comments?
Well, it's a pretty exciting offer, and has a very nice, like I was sharing with you, energy behind it. If people heard the interview when Robert was on your show, and then the one you're going to have with him next week, it's nice to listen why he started this coin, what his intentions were about it, and just really listen to what he has to say. And I think that's very, very kind of, you pay attention to that. And basically, it's because he wanted to help people out, really. Also, to get behind art. I don't know if people are especially interested in it, but that's a cultural heritage for humanity. And so to take care of that and to make it something special, and Robert will tell you how that works, I think that's important too. One thing that's pretty cool, and maybe you could give us a little bit more details, is the fact that they are going to have their own bank. So if the amounts start getting pretty big and people want to exchange and get the value out of their coin and all, Meta One Bank isn't going to treat you like a criminal just because you want to withdraw a few $1,000. Because I've also heard stories where people have difficulty getting cash or getting funds out of the bank.
Robert's vision behind all of this was establishing a financial system so that everyday common folks like you and me could take advantage of what's going on out there, have a very nice, healthy increase in their money, and have their money placed into a banking system that was outside the power and control of the Federal Reserve System, and that is very customer-oriented, very personal-oriented. You're going to have basically a banking system that you're always going to have personal service that is there. And when it's not going to be like, you're going to go into an online banking system and it's going to be hard to get a live voice. Nope, that's not it. They're here primarily to serve you. And they will have enough money to do that, to give you advice. Let me share one other thing that I forgot. When Robert set up this company, he did not set it up as a corporation or as an LLC. He set it up as a private trust. So the whole company itself is in a private trust. And private trusts are very powerful when it comes to be able to secure your funds and being able to how it is in a very safe place. And so technically, he's not the CEO of a corporation. He is basically the senior trustee of a private trust where all of this is set underneath it. And what we encourage is if you bring money into Meta One Coin or have accounts in Meta One Bank, we would also encourage you to set up your own private trust. And we will have people that will assist you in doing that. Because when your money is in a private trust, it means it gives you your absolute best tax benefits. It's a very safe place to be. If people want to sue you, they can't come after you personally because the money is in a trust. There's always been the old comments in the financial system, and it's also what the Rockefellers had to say. The common quote was, own nothing but control everything. And that's what you do when your money is in a trust. The trust owns it, but you have absolute control of everything in the trust. And so that's the next step that will come also with that. So not only do they have the coin and the exchange and the bank, but they're also going to assist you in setting this up as a private trust system as well. So go ahead.
Yes, that's very strong. And that's also what's attractive about the way this particular offering is set up. Now, if people are familiar with Bitcoin or Litecoin, they are used to using the coin to make purchases or to pay for services or to send to friends and family. Compare or contrast how someone would use MetaCoin. Would they have to convert it in the bank, or anyway, so people can kind of understand how that works against like a Bitcoin.
Okay, first of all, if you already have other cryptocurrencies, you can use that to purchase Litecoin, and I'm going to do that. I have Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ethereum. I have all three. I'm going to transfer those. I don't have to cash them out into US dollars and then use my US dollars to go purchase Meta One coin. I can purchase the Meta One coin using existing cryptocurrencies. And as Meta One coin becomes more popular, yes, there might be businesses that will allow you to transaction in the coin. But if you have the coin and your bank account is tied to the coin, you can use your debit card. You can use your bank account debit card, and it's basically, you go out and you make a purchase in US dollars, but it will take the US dollar equivalent out of your Meta One coin account, out of your coins. So in essence, you're using a regular US dollar bank debit card to make purchases from your Meta One account, whether it's coins or the bank account, or both. So you still have the ability to do that, to use that on everyday transactions.
That's very good. That's a great plus right there.
Yeah. That's a great plus right there. Yeah. See, there are some businesses that are allowing you to use Bitcoin, to basically make purchases, but those aren't a lot. But what's nice is you can, when you have the bank and the coin and a debit card system all wrapped into one account, that means you can just do your everyday normal business. You can take your Meta One coin down to a local ATM, draw cash out against your coin. You can go make a purchase against your coin, so the whole system is there. It's set up to do that. It's a very smooth operating system.
Yes, that's good.
And again, whether your money is in the coin or in the Meta One bank, you've taken it out of the control of the Federal Reserve System.
That's the coolest part.
Yeah. See, I've been talking about this stuff for 3 and 4 years, but I said, where do we get this? Where are we going to put our money to take it out of the system? And then boom, the whole team, my friends around me, they said, here it is. And it was, to me, it was another one of those divine assignments that just came right before us. It was everything I was looking for. And that's why I feel so solid about, the Meta One system that is there.
That's pretty interesting. Yes, so I would encourage people to, if you're intrigued by it, go to the website, look into it. If you can attend the workshop, you'll get to meet Robert directly, ask your questions, maybe meet some of the other board members. But it's a very exciting proposition, and even if you decide not to do it, I would say learn about it, because you're a select group of people who are actually getting a chance to participate before it gets public. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. You got about another month and a half to be able to make purchases on the coins, and at a very, very low rate before it goes public. Purchasing Meta One at $22 was kind of like, purchasing Bitcoin at $100. And it's going to be very, very similar, if not even better. So that's everything we're being told. That's not just speculation on my part. I try to be very careful when I say stuff about that I'm, operating on something that's coming from very tangible professional sources of information. And they are. That's what's being told us from very strong people in the top of the art industry and in the Wall Street industry as well.
Well, I think that's...
They're kind of a little disappointed that they can't come in with their $100 million and purchase a bunch of coin. And we said, sorry, nope, we're not doing that. You can come in as an individual. We're not going to let you come in as an institution, an investing institution, and purchase any of this coin. This is designed for everyday people.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty remarkable.
And you just don't see that anymore. Because it's not motivated totally around profit. It's motivated around service.
Right.
And helping people.
Right.
That's very interesting. That's worth taking a look into, because many of your listeners are, humanitarians at heart. They know what the system is, and what it's meant to do and what it's done for human beings. And so if there's a nice, spirited alternative, it's worth investigating. And so that's pretty much my questions. And I don't know if you had some other topic to address.
Yeah, I do. But one other thing, if you want to know some more about the coin, you go to the website meta1coin.com. That's META, the number one coin.com. And there's a 57-page white paper that it's in PDF format that you can download, and you can read all about the company and everything that they're doing. And obviously, yes, it's all backed up by the blockchain technology as well. It's all blockchain based as well. So, and folks, here's what I'd ask you to do. If you've got specific questions about the company and the coin in the bank, address that through the website, not to me. I'm not the expert in all this stuff. I'm a board member, yes, but they're the ones that are the experts that can give you really good, solid answers. Okay, then, are we ready to move on with the next topic? I just want to make a couple other announcements, and then we'll be ready to go into any questions that anybody has.
Sounds good.
Okay, so folks, if you've got some questions tonight, or if you'd like to make some comments, again, the call-in number is 515-605-9356. And right now, we don't have anybody on the lineup ready to ask questions or make comments, so you'll be right at the very top if you call in right now. Again, the number is 515-605-9356, and I'm going to go into questions here in a couple minutes. So go ahead and start calling in now. Remember, call that number, press 1 on your touch-tone phone, and then that will basically let us know that you want to come online. So I want to make a couple comments about what also Robert and I talked about a couple weeks ago about the general economy. We're just we just don't know, but yet we're finding more and more professional people are commenting that it's almost certain we're going to go into a form of a financial crash. Now, if I was to put this whole scenario together myself, and it's speculation, this is a speculation statement, there's a very strong possibility we can go into a financial crash because we have to bring in a whole complete new financial system. And the old system pretty much has to crash for the new system to come in. And the new system coming in, the old system crashing, paves the way for the new system to come in, and it paves the way for our funds to be released in a much, much larger amount. And there are other very credible people saying there are 20 to 30 to 40 trillion dollars that are out there that are available that have been part of the corrupt cabal system that really belongs to the people, and they're talking about bringing that in as well. So yes, there is a very strong possibility that we might see a financial crash system. So folks, I would encourage you to be prepared for that, okay? And whatever you need to do for that. The second thing is, for a long time, people have asked us, why can't you put your workshops on video? Well, it wasn't so much of a legal issue as much as it was as a safety issue for me, that it was highly recommended that I don't do that because I was sharing sensitive information at the workshops. But here's what I'm doing. I am now starting to video the workshop content, not the sensitive currency information, but the regular workshop content. And within the next 1 to 2 months, it will be available on YouTube. It's going to end up probably being in somewhere between 8 to 10 parts or segments, somewhere between a half hour to an hour in each one. I try to keep them totally under an hour as much as possible. I try to keep them in the area of around half hour to 45 minutes each, so that way then you can watch them in parts along the way, but you're going to get the full information. What is best about all of that is that when you get all this information that comes out of the workshop, you see what I do as I go through the day, you're going to get the big picture about who we are, how we got into this financial slavery, why this money is coming forward, where it is coming from, who are the sources of it, and what's our responsibility of learning how to handle this abundance that's coming our way. That'll be coming in the next 1 to 2 months. Then the other thing, I had talked about what is called the LERM, L-E-R-M process, coming from A.R. Borden. That LERM is an acronym, Light Encoded Reality Matrix. And that I'm going to start sharing that. I've done, originally, A.R. Borden had about a 42-page white paper on the LERM. And when you read that, when you thought, I can do this, what is LERM? LERM is learning how, from the process of your thoughts, to encode light packets around you that makes anything physically appear in a moment's notice. And they all had the ability to do that. They were the brightest scientists in the world, and they could do that. Well, when you just read that one paper, it sounds fairly simple. I've been reading now much of his other documents and one of his other books, and I found it's not a simple process, folks. This is something that's going to take some time to learn how to do it. And I will start explaining that later. But if you want to get started, here's what I encourage you to do. And this is also based on A.R. Borden's recommendations. You want to read the background material so you have a feeling of the background of where this comes from. The background material is, you go to the wingmakers.com website, you read the Neruda interviews, and then you read the book Ancient Arrow Project. Now, Ancient Arrow Project is the foundation of the Wingmakers material, and it's the foundation of basically of Neruda's interviews. Then you read that book that I've talked so much about, Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard. I've mentioned it many times on this program. You go to my website under the Resources tab, the book is there as well. Then, here's a new resource. You can go to the Facebook page. Here's the title, The Writings of A.R. Borden, B-O-R-D-E-N. Oh, B-O-R-D-O-N, A.R. Borden. The Writings of A.R. Borden. You go to that Facebook page, all of his essays and white papers are there, and plus there's about a 180-page book in PDF that calls Something from Nothing. And that is called the MPO, or the LERM process. That's the detailed book on it. I've just started that book. I'm not all the way through in it. That's the background material if you want to learn how to do this process. So, that's pretty much it, Blanca. And you know what? Nobody's calling in. So,
I think
do you see anybody else out there?
You've stunned them with
I must have. Yeah. So, I don't see anybody else calling in. I don't have anything else that I need to share tonight. I've gone through everything that was on my list. Is there
no, I don't
anything
see anyone,
else you'd like to share before we close it up tonight?
No, I think, well, I would encourage people, I don't remember the date when you really went into talking about LERM, because you did give a pretty detailed explanation about it. You talked about the MPO, and so people can look at your archives because you do talk about that. Very, very good talk about that. Encourage them to look at the writings. Now, A.R. Borden is pretty much, in my estimation, a genius, wouldn't you say?
Oh, well, you know, the Cordium, which were the benevolent ETs that he worked with for over 30 years, they said he was the brightest, smartest man on this planet. So he was a super genius. You put him into that. You have to put him into that category.
Right. So all I'm saying is,
he and his colleagues and scientists,
his writing is not.
They were so. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think we're cross-cutting each other. Go ahead.
Well, he was a super genius, and he had about 18 scientists that surrounded themselves. They were the brightest and smartest scientists in the world. And, you know, he had this comment, and he says, everything you saw in Star Trek 30 years ago, we do it all for real.
Right.
They could do all that stuff. They were the scientists that understood the physics behind metaphysics. They understood how this universe works. They understood how it's a holographic universe. It's not solid and it's not real. And they understood how we make things of form appear and how it comes into existence. And they could do all of that. And they were bright. They were solid. And I think you were about to say, because he's so bright, he uses terminology. You got to read that stuff slowly to digest it. Okay?
So I think you're suggesting
you're not going to be able
to read Ancient Arrow Project, which is the book about where you learn about the group he's in, the Labyrinth group, and what they do. You start learning about the technologies that they actually have access to already. It's kind of in a fiction form, but I would say most of it is pretty true. And so you're getting accustomed to the language. I really enjoyed the read myself. and then that gives you the background for the Neruda interviews, which I think takes it up a notch in terms of the information provided. And then when you jump into A.R. Borden, then you've got another ramp. If you go straight into his writings, it's a pretty big jump. Now, maybe there's a lot of geniuses out there listening to you. I think so, but I know that I was glad that I had exposed myself to the Ancient Arrow Project first and the Neruda interviews, because that kind of got me used to some of the language and the world that they inhabited. And this was like, you read about it now and people are just talking about some of this technology, and they had it already in those days when the book came out.
Yes, and remember the book, Neruda's interviews were 20 years ago. And Ancient Arrow Project was just prior to that. Now, in Ancient Arrow Project and Neruda interviews, he refers to his boss as 15. That was his code name. And A.R. Borden is 15. He is 15 in those materials. In those materials, he kind of comes off as the black hat, the bad guy. But I'm personal friends with Michael Lee Hill, who Borden had tutored for the last 5 years of his life. So, Michael had a real close relationship with Borden, and said Borden really made the transition after Neruda's interviews. That's when he realized he had kind of gotten in too heavy with the Kabbalah-based elements, and that he needed to come back to what was called a strong, healthy, ethical, moral-based spiritual foundation. And he did that after the Neruda interview. So he really changes a lot after that, is what he did. But the first read is Ancient Arrow Project. And it is a true story that they put into the form of a novel, because they said if they had told that story as a story based and put it out on the internet, the Cabal would have came in, destroyed it, torn it apart, castigated all of them, made fun of them, made them look like fools, and because they're such powerful controllers of information sources, they could have done that. And that's what a lot of people that have very controversial, what I call shadow world information, and they will have a story to tell, they'll put it into the form of a novel. And so it's like, how do you attack a novel? You see, because the intention is to get the story out, and the story comes out in the novel. But you can understand that the novel, the vast majority of it, is truth-based.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Hey, I think you've got someone
we do have one
has
person.
a question.
I know. We'll just go right directly to that person,
right?
Without screening them in advance. We're going to the person from area code 702. Okay, you're on the air here with Dave. What can we help you with tonight?
Hey, Dave, it's Jackie. I thought I'd call in since you didn't have much going on as far as calls. I was interested. I got to replay it. I was interested. I heard part of it in the beginning about the contracts that are with the government and the countries and everything, because I'm connected to that. You kind of said that was good. Well, nothing is ever good to go, but that was better because it was like it might go in the next month or so, and the other funnel, as you put it, would be it has legal troubles or something like that. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I pretty much said everything. The one that is in the contract with the government is good to go. They are on course with their plan as long as they don't have any interruptions. The other one ran into some legal problems. It's been put on hold, and we don't know how long it's going to take to fix that.
Is it kind of like if one goes, they all go? I get the sense that nothing's going on its own, kind of a thing. It's like either there's a go or either there's a go. Go ahead.
I used to think that's the way it was, but I don't know that anymore. I can't say that anymore.
And what about?
We used to think once one.
What's that?
We used to think that's what was going to happen. They were all going to go at the same time. I don't know anymore. I don't, because things dramatically changed in the last 2 to 3 months.
When did it? How long has it been since they dramatically changed?
The last 2 to 3 months, maybe even 4 months.
Okay.
It was an ongoing process, and everything has dramatically changed. So stuff you were hearing 6 months ago, you can't count on any of that anymore.
Right. Are you okay? So, what about M&M? We're not hearing anything about them anymore. What's going on with that?
Well, they have their own business. They have their own website. My job was to introduce them to us, to the listeners here. I don't bring them on the program. I don't promote them because they have their own stuff. And if you got questions with them, you can go and ask them through their website.
Right. Of course. So,
Yeah.
is there a part of you that's starting to feel like this is just an elaborate tail chase? Like you said, you started to say why Blanca said came in. I missed that part. I wanted to hear it where she said this can tell you it's real. It was about the contract. What was she responding to there?
Well, here's what I come back and say. The Dragon families and the money that they have is very real. They've been working on this for 75 years to safely release these funds, so we have no idea how long it's going to take because they're very patient. Okay? So it's not an elaborate hoax. They have money. It's very real money, and all of my contacts I have with them say they have an intention of what they want to do, but they will not put it out into an unsafe environment. And they've been working on this for 75 years, so who knows how much longer it's going to take.
But Blanca was responding to something specific. I have to go back and re-listen to the show, but something about now that something occurred where you knew something that she said, well, that shows you that it's real, or like something that just recently happened. Can you know what that was?
Yeah, it's the comments from the government contract processing office, and that we've gotten word that the IMF is involved in the release of the funds, and they're also releasing directions, a manual of directions about how to release and move the money. We had never had that before.
I see. Well, that is
the very fact that they are involved in this process tells us a lot. That's very solid information.
That's what I had kind of heard from the beginning of being in that contract, that there really is solid, sources involved. Do you remember back a while ago where there was an airplane that was with Trump or something, or whatever it was supposed to be taking, a vice president plane? It was maybe a year ago or so, taking off from Reno. What happened with that? Was that? I mean, there's so many things that seem like it should go. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, all of my inside sources said the vice president and Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, were privately and quietly in Reno meeting with some of the top people in Reno. And it was my friend and associate. He saw the plane itself, and I explained it onto my website.
Right.
It was not Air Force Two, quote. It was technically Air Force Two because the vice president was on the plane. But there is more than one plane that he flies on. But it very clearly was a U.S. government plane, and it was one of the planes that he flies on a regular basis. And then my inside intel contacts said, yes, the vice president and Mnuchin, they were in Reno. It was a very quiet private meetings that they had, and it was never made public. And we didn't hear anything beyond that.
Right, we get the tea leaves, and then they go cold sometimes. So I guess we just have to see. Okay, Dave, you didn't have much on the call, so I thought I'd ask. Are you back next week?
Yep. Yeah, I'll be back with Robert. Will be on the program next week with me again.
Where is he? I haven't listened too much about him. Where is he in the mix of the? I know he has his own cryptocurrency, but where is he in the mix of the other currencies being released?
It's best that I don't make comments about that.
Okay, but is he involved with that part of it?
He's very knowledgeable and he's aware of it.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see.
He has contacts with some very top people.
What's that? I didn't want to talk over you. What's that? What did you just say?
He has contacts with some very top people involved in the whole release of the funds.
Does anything with the election?
And he's aware of what's going on.
Does anything with the election? Are you looking for any signs relating to the election that affects things? Midterm.
Well, not anymore. Not anymore. I was always wondering, were we going to see things start popping open before the election? Well, we're down to 3 weeks, and I don't know. There is a strategy, possibly they may wait till after. So it's kind of one of those things where saying, yeah, we'd like to see some hardcore stuff actually pop and happen, stuff that they're always talking about in the background. But,
Well, you know, it was going to be after the inauguration, so God knows what's going to happen. But anyway, like you said, don't quit your day job, so here we go. All right, well, I appreciate it. We'll be back next week then.
okay, all right, thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Okay. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, we're going to go to a gentleman by the name of Mike. Oh, I'm sorry, I got the wrong one. There, I want to come back here. We're going to go to a gentleman by the name of Mike from area code 214. Mike, you're on the air. What can we help you with?
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, Dave, I had a couple questions. I was following you and about this time last year, and you had a guy named Jason, and I had put a bunch of money in, not a bunch, but I put I followed exactly what you said. I put some money in Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and I mean, I've lost like 75%. Yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So my first question, what happened to Jason? Remember you had brought him to a bunch of your workshops?
Well, Jason has opened up his why am I getting that feedback? So I think I'm getting feedback off of your phone or your radio, so you need to turn yours down.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Okay. There we are. Yeah, now we're good. Yeah, I was getting feedback off your system. You know, Jason, when that had happened, he opened up his own business. He was doing some operations with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
He has a number of people on his list, and he's still operating his business. And he basically chose to go on his own. And we had a few little things that we just had differences of opinion on. So, you know, I'll introduce people to folks, but I usually don't leave people on here and promote them over and over and over and over again on my program unless it's something that I am deeply involved in, like I am with MetaOneCoin. Okay, so I mean, I did that with Jason. I introduced people to Jason. I let him go on his own way. I introduced people to M&M, and I let them go on their own way. They have their own websites, their own businesses. You can email to them and ask them your questions if you want to be involved with them. I leave that up to individuals. It's not my job to bring them in and be a part of the Sedona connection.
Mm-hmm.
The MetaOneCoin is an exception because I'm on the board, and it was what I was looking for a couple of years, and I described that tonight. So, you know, Jason's fine. He's a good man. He does good work in what he does, but, you know, people need to make their own choices, and not everything is for everybody.
Well, I was interested, and I'm interested in following into the many coins. But I mean, I'm very worried because I mean, I followed you and Blanca around this time last year. I'm sorry, and I mean, I've lost. I mean, I followed in your footsteps. You said Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and y'all had made like a bunch of money. So I'm like, okay, let me get it. And then. Like this, you know, it was like a year ago. I mean, I've lost like 75% of the money that I put in.
No, and I understand because, you know, I mean, my portfolio is down about 70% itself from where it was at its high point. And when I go back to where I first put money into it, I'm actually down a little bit. Is what I am. I come back and I said, now you need to make your own decision. Maybe you only want to put a couple $100 into MetaOne, you know, whatever you want to do. But remember, this is hard asset backed, and none of that other stuff is.
I know.
That was Wild West crazy days when Bitcoin went up to 20,000 and it's now all the way down to 6. You know, anybody in a stock market setting would say, when you see something like that absolutely pop and explode, you know it's going to pull back, and you better have a spot where you get out to basically preserve your money. You don't want to think it's going to go back to that. A lot of people talk about it, but it hasn't. When you have a small number of people that control it, it's not going to be what is called a true market-driven.
All right, but what about
coin?
Hold on, Dave. What about all right, there's only like 17 million Bitcoins, okay? And there's like I don't know exact numbers, but like Ethereum, it's like 100 million. Litecoin, so many million. I did the research. You said 450 million Metacoin. I mean, that's freaking huge.
Yeah, and of those 1,700 coins out there, most of them have far more than that. Okay.
No, but I mean, not in the top. Not if you do the research in the top 10. I mean, there's XRP. There's one. They're like 20 cents. They're not $22. There's no one that's 450 million coins at $22.
You make your decision. There's only 5 of about 1,700 that are asset backed. You make the decision on what you want to do. That's your decision. If you're not comfortable with it, don't buy it.
No, I'm just asking questions. I was researching the whole thing.
I know. Yeah.
You go to
I know what you're saying.
Coin
But remember,
Launchpad.
they're all fiat based. They're all fiat based in a Wild West environment, and it's crazy out there. So you can't make those decisions based on what is normal, solid asset market based issues. They're just Meta One Coin isn't even in the same ballpark of the other 1,700 because of how it is asset backed, and it has already over $1 billion in asset backing it.
I know. The
$22.22 is already its asset value. Now, did you hear what I just said?
Yeah.
The $22.22 is its current asset value, when actually, truly, the assets are more than that. But that's where, when it started, when it had $1 billion in art, that's how they based that amount.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually much more than that right now. So it's not going to go below that. It's not going to go below the 22.22.
Well, if you get 450 million shares and $2, that $2 is $1 billion. Not $22. $2. See what I'm saying?
Yes, but remember, all assets are leveraged just as bank leverages its money. And that's how they work that. All of that information, all the questions you're asking, they're in that white paper. You need to go to the website and read the white paper.
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, there's like you said, there's only a few of the 1,700 that are asset backed.
Go to the website and read the white paper, okay? And don't try to compare this to other coins. They're not in the same ballpark. Look at what is called the hard information of what is there, what Robert has mentioned, what I've mentioned, and what you read on the white paper. And then make your decision.
All right, so I got all three, like you said. So I can call them up and say, hey, I got, for instance, I got 100 Litecoin. And that Litecoin's like $50. Okay, I could transfer those 100 Litecoins into Metacoin.
Yes, you could. Yeah, you can do that.
And it'll be like basically 2 for 1 because I got Litecoin. Okay, so $50. So it'll be like, you know, a little bit more, 2 for 1. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be roughly in that area. So, yeah.
And on but the 2 people you said it was part-time, they can do all this?
What's that?
The 2 people that are working part-time for the coin.
They're pretty much working almost full-time, processing everybody.
All right.
So, you know, I don't know if they're gonna be able to. You'll have to
I
probably
had Coinbase too.
send an email.
I got a couple of different ones. Abra, Coinbase. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, you might have to leave a voicemail and then they'll get back to you because they've been very, very busy processing everything. Because, you know, basically in the last 2 weeks we've had about 1,000 new people come in purchasing coins. Yeah.
All right, Dave.
Okay.
I've been following from the
Anything
beginning.
else? Okay.
I don't know what the hell it's going to
Alrighty.
end, but
Thanks, Mike.
all right, thanks, everybody.
All right. Have a good evening. Okay.
All right, thanks, bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Yeah. Okay, Blanca, I think you said that it looks like the person that is on there that there was no answer, so
Right.
you probably might have accidentally pressed this one.
Right.
Yeah, so that's it. I think that's all we have for tonight, isn't it?
Right. So I'm glad that we had the questions that we did, about the currency exchange and about cryptos, and basically anyone who's going to be investing money, whether it's the stock market or in crypto, you do your research, you listen to people that you trust, but in the end, you are responsible for your decision, and then you have to know that it is an investment and what the risks are and what the upsides are, and be a master of your destiny and take responsibility for your decisions. And so right now you are presenting facts about Meta OneCoin. You're talking about the benefits that you see to it. In the interview with Robert tomorrow, he's going to be talking about it. I would invite people, if they can ask Robert, what are the downsides of this? Okay, so that if something happens, you are well aware and well informed. The PDF that's on the Meta OneCoin, very informative. So if indeed you're going to get into this, it's very good due diligence to read that. And so then to place onus or blame or whatever on other people for a decision that you as a wise, informed investor made, that's not quite masterful in my opinion.
Yeah. So, okay. Anything else? Any other comments that you have, Blanca?
I think that's it. You covered a lot of interesting
information
today, and that was fun.
Okay. Alrighty, folks. That's it then for tonight. We will look forward to seeing you next week. And again, I'll have Robert back on the program next week. And so bring your questions next week. So with that, folks, thanks again for joining us tonight. And we will see you next week.